Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video, I'll be building this non-scale resin figure kit from the video game series Shantae. It's a commission build produced by Volks and is part of their Charagumin line. It's a small kit, so it doesn't have many parts, and they're molded in the colors they're supposed to be in, so it's pretty beginner friendly. It has two sets of instructions, one's in Japanese and one in English. The first step when I build any resin kit is to wash the parts to remove any mold release. I'm using regular dish soap and an old toothbrush and warm water. Dish soap is made to remove cooking oils, so it works pretty well to remove the oily mold release. Then I just let it air dry. After everything's dry, it's time to cut off the casting nubs. They're usually pretty thick on resin kits, so you probably want to use a more sturdy cutting tool. Don't break your god hands. Once the nubs are cut off, it's time to smooth the cut marks and any other molding lines by normal scraping and sanding. Note, I'd recommend wearing a mask to keep any dust out of your respiratory system, since resin dust is pretty harmful. You could also wet sand to keep the dust at a minimum if you like. This tool is a flexi-file for sanding curved parts. It'll help prevent flattening any round edges. The hair, for example, has quite a few mold lines that are hard to get to with scraping tools, so it comes in pretty handy here. There's a slight gap where the hair and headband meet, so I'll fill that with putty later. I'm using soft sanding sponges on these bracelet parts to avoid flattening them. There are a lot of mold lines in between the fingers that are a little difficult to get to, but with a little effort they're good to go. This resin's a little on the hard side, so I decided to whip out the power tools to make sanding a little quicker. When I was sanding the larger hair part, I noticed it had a few pinholes that are going to need to be filled. I'm going to be using my Tamiya lecturing putty to fill it. It was actually a little surprising since none of the other parts have this problem. And I have a couple other of the Charagumin kits in my stash that seem pretty clean too, so I think it's just a fluke in this case. The lecturing putty didn't stick that well to the resin, so I'm going to try some CA glue. Still having issues, so third time's the charm with Mr. Dissolve Putty. I think this is going to work. Now that the holes are sanded and done, it's time to pin the heavier parts using 1mm brass rod and my Tamiya handy drill. This model is small and light, so I'm only going to pin the major points: the foot and ankle, the waist parts, the hair, and the neck. I'll skip the arms and hands. All the parts are on skewers and ready for painting. I'm using Gaia Surfacer Evo White for the yellow and purple parts, and Gaia Pink Evo Surfacer for the red. For the flesh tones, I'm going to leave it the resin color, just add shading. And the same goes for the black. For the colors, the instructions call out Vallejo paints. I like Vallejo for hand painting, but not for airbrushing. This is just a personal preference. I know some people that get beautiful results with airbrush Vallejo. In my case, I'll be using Mr. Color and Gaia Notes lacquer paints and matching it back to the Vallejo colors. For the flesh tones, I'll be shading it with clear paints, in this case clear brown. The black parts aren't really black, but a dark gray, so I'll be shading that with this semi-gloss black. You can use any black, but I'm using this one specifically just because the cap is broken and I want to use it before it dries out. The purple is a mix to match the Vallejo color and the resin color. I just eyeballed it so I don't have a ratio, but the colors I'm using are MS Purple and Mr. Color C67 Purple. For purple shading, I'm going to use the GX Clear Purple. And for the highlights, I'll just use the MS Purple by itself, and that's from the Gundam color line. For the yellow, the Gaia Sunshine Yellow was an almost perfect match for the Vallejo color, so I'll use that in its place. And I'll do any shading on the yellow with clear orange from Gaia Notes. I tested the Mr. Color GX Red, but it was a little too bright. You can see here the GX colors on the bottom and the Vallejo's the red in the center there. But I found this 108 Character Red at my local hobby shop, and it's an almost exact match for the Vallejo color. For shading on the red and the flesh, this is the clear brown that I'm going to be using. And here's the test that I did on the ears. I used a little bit of clear red in this mix, but I'm just going to use the brown by itself for the rest of the flesh. And I will thin all of these paints with Mr. Leveling Thinner. Now that everything's flat coated, I need to paint the detail parts. The yellow circle that's on the costume. And the eyebrows, lashes, and mouth. I'm going to use Vallejo paints for these small details, since it's easier to hand paint with these. The kit comes with a sticker for the eye. Normally I'd paint it, but since this is a commission, I'll be using the provided sticker. And now to glue all the parts together. I'm using CA glue, which is just another name for super glue. I taped all my pins earlier to the mat and noted which parts they go with. the final part, drilling the holes for the base. You only get one shot here, so you can't screw it up. This is an acrylic base, also made by Volks. I've already measured and drilled off camera so I could focus on it. The acrylic was pretty tough and it took a little more effort than this drill could handle. So now I'm fitting the pins into the holes, but it's not really fitting, and the reason is it just has some super glue stuck on it. So I'll scrape that off. And once I do that, it should be a tight fit and doesn't really require any glue. I didn't want to super glue it just in case the super glue left any marks on the acrylic. And there's the finished model of Shantae, the Half-Genie Hero. Hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Had fun switching up from the last few mecha builds. If you'd like to get one of these for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll also leave a link for a photo gallery. And as always, thanks for watching.